everyone, and welcome to another episode of Journalist Talks. This is the podcast from journalists to journalists. Hello, everyone. Today I have another guest here on the podcast, and she is Professor Lenize Villaça, and she is a professor at FATEC, Faculty of Technology of São Paulo in Brazil. Thank you so much for being here. Would you like to give everyone a brief biography about yourself?
Hi there. Hi, Bia. Okay, I'm a journalist and professor. I have a PhD in Education, Art and History of Culture from Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie here in Brazil, Master in Communication Sciences from the University of São Paulo. I was a visiting professor at State University of New York, SUNY, Albany, and as a journalist, I worked for radio stations in Paraná state here in Brazil and São Paulo, another state. I was also a reporter for Revista Mackenzie and a contributor to Radio Web Mackenzie. In the academic area, I was part of the faculty of Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie, Centro Universitário FEAM-FAAM, and Universidade Santa Maronisa. I work with audiovisual communication, cultural journalism, radio journalism, and so on. That's me.
Thank you so much for coming here. And like I said, Lenize is from Brazil, which is really awesome to have a double perspective on radio journalism. And today I wanted to focus a little bit in your PhD, which is College Radio Territories in the 21st Century, Cultural Study of Stations in the United States and Brazil, which is kind of a comparison she made on university radios. And I would like you to explain a little bit more about this topic of your doctorate.
I visited in the U.S. college radio stations in the fall of 2019. I went to WCDB-FM in SUNY, Columbia University, WRPI in Troy, WVCR, Siena College, Londonville, New York. I went also to WMBR, is the MIT campus radio station, WHRB, Harvard Radio, Album 88, Georgia State University, 89.1 The Point in Brockport, New York, and also, of course, in KCSN-FM, CSUN. I went to all of these radio stations to see what they were doing about the relation between the students and the market. I want to see what was going on, what college radio stations would do differently from Brazil radio college stations. It was a big surprise. I went to 8 different ways of managing this area because I think the radio stations, they are like unique. I think I never see the same situation in the other one.
I was wondering, what is the similarities between the university radios? Because as a former student of yours, I had my radio class with you, and I know how it kind of works in Brazil, and here you saw 8 different aspects of radio than what you are used to. So what are their similarities?
I must say my main purpose was to find out what was similar and different. I realized that we have the same passion for audio, for radio, but we use this passion, these skills of radio in a different way. In the United States, I use it to socialize, to perpetuate musical culture. And in Brazil, we use it more as an extension of the classroom. I think the ideal would be to mix both ways. It's different from the way you use the radio and the space and headquarters and also the studio.
Can you go a little in depth about how different we use our skills like in Brazil and in here?
I realized that in the US, so the main purpose is to bring some news, but not in the way we do it here in Brazil. In Brazil, we are on air to practice how to work in hard news. We are always delivering break news. This is the way the students, they are training to be in the market. In the United States, different. When the student comes to the radio station, he brings the way he likes to listen to music. If he likes hip hop or country music or other kind of music, he brings that to his show, and probably he comes to the radio station once or twice a week, like 1 or 2 hours in a row. And this is the way the student works. In Brazil, it's rarely we have a student that comes to me and say, "Oh, Lenize, I would like to bring a show to this radio about samba," for instance. Here in Brazil, the radio station, college radio station, is more like a practice. We don't use it like a way to socialize to the audience or to our friends or something like this. I think both ways could work together. I talked about a little how it worked here in Brazil. They were very, very surprised. They used it to say, "Oh, that's interesting. We could do something like this here." So it was very, very interesting for me that students, American students, could work this way to practice as hard news in the radio station. And when they would really go to the market, maybe they would be more used to this situation, It's more like the real situation of the market.
Yes. In Brazil, we do more hard news, and here the radio stations would be more focused on feature news or entertainment or something more lighter. Radio here is the lighter part, but when you take other broadcast classes, such as newscast, news show, etc., it's more hard news. I don't know if that is something that it's real, like this difference, like radio being something more for feature stories and entertainment, and then television for hard news.
Or maybe it's something that it's always on my mind. Radio in the United States, it's more like audio culture, it's different from TV. So I think this is what I realized from my time I was there studying and visiting the radio stations. The music culture is really something very important to the radio station. For instance, in WCDB, we have a show that is about jazz, and it's in there for over 35 years with the same showman, DJ, and people love him because he knows everything about jazz. So it's a pleasure to listen to his show. And he brings a lot of news from this segment.
Yeah, that's a really good perception and a new way for people to know how things work here and in other countries, what type of news people listen to. After coming here and having this new experience, this was something that you brought to your other classes right now. It's something that you encourage your students right now, like, hey, do something more about entertainment news.
When I came back here to Brazil, I was really impacted of the way students run the radio station. Students that are from the first semester to the last semester, they run the radio station. So they are the general manager, they have e-board, executive board. So it's something in this way, is something very, very professional. If you applied for the position and you are elected, you are the general manager of the radio station. And this is something very big for a teenager, a young lady or something like this to be in an executive board. So when I came back here to Brazil, I wanted to do this here in Rádio Mackenzie, where I was working at the time. Because here in Brazil, who runs the Rádio Mackenzie are the owners of the university, not the students. The students, they don't have a voice of the way the radio station is being running. Once you have students thinking about this, how to run, what they are going to do, how they are going to manage the radio station, how many DJs they are going to have, how many shows they are going to have, how many hours a day they are going to be on air. I think this would be a totally different experience from our students here in Brazil.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it brings even more professionalism to the students' life. Like you said, there's like 18, 19-year-olds, and they are running or being a producer assistant and as activity assistant. So that's a lot of responsibility, and you need to be mature about the situations because it's literally what you would do in a professional radio station. And I loved our time talking. I just wanted to thank you for your time and talking to me. I really appreciate it. It was a really pleasure talking to you again.
Thank you, Bia. Thank you very much. I hope I could bring something new for you and your audience about the college radio stations. And I must say, if you are listening to this podcast, please join to a college radio station. It's very, very nice to be there as a DJ, as a producer, as a journalist. You know, I love radio a lot, and I would like to spread this passion to all of your audience.
That's really nice. Thank you.
So everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode, and be tuned for the next one. Follow us on our Facebook page, Journalist Talk, and our website at the description of the podcast. Thank you.